Gogmazios.
Oh, okay, definitely said Gogmazios, but what about Gogmazios? They don't speak Japanese. But they must have a translator, right? I assume that's what he is?
Alors, j'ai une question à vous poser à vous dans le public. Le Gogmazios, hein, c'est un monstre qu'on n'avait plus vu depuis 11 ans au Japon. Mais même ici, qui a déjà affronté un Gogmazios?
I don't know what I expected. Hello, my fellow hunters. How fare you today? You know, apart from the constant gnawing and scratching of every agonizing second that passes that doesn't put Lord Gog in game. Why is it not December? But, you know, apart from that, how are you doing? If, like me, you are desperate for any kind of reprieve from the long title update 4 wait that's actually shorter than the other waits, but still, well, I've got good news. The Monster Hunter Festa in France is happened, and we have gotten some lovely things out of it. Stories 3, of course, was a big focus, and wow, that's looking cool, though I think at this point Cotton actually knows more about that game than I do, so that's a kind of weird reverse going on. I might try and keep that going till its release, actually. Let me know what you think about that. In any case, we also got just a lot of fun Monster Hunter-y stuff. We will have a whole look at the event in general and everything cool that went down very soon. But for now, I want to laser focus in on that little wild section where there was a little Q&A with Ryozo and Toshida-san, and they gave us the goods. And let's talk about them. Although first, I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to Mireia, I really hope that's how you pronounce your name, for translating the interview from French to English for me. If it was Spanish, I could have managed, but you know, not French. In any case, that's proved incredibly helpful, so we actually know what's going on here without, you know, random translator automatic things kind of missing nuance, etc. So first and foremost, they asked about collabs. And of course that's to do with Omega and everything that went down with him, and they are once again just very, very positive about it, which does make sense. They have been very clearly very excited to work with Final Fantasy again, and the main thing that they wanted to stress when it comes to that is that they just won't do a collab just for the sake of it, right? They want it to be fun, surprising, they want to have a good relationship with the game, the devs that they're collabing with. It's not just that's a popular thing, let's put it in Monster Hunter, which is why we ended up getting Final Fantasy twice, because they knew they could work with the Final Fantasy devs to create something special, and quality is obviously of more importance than just choosing a big flashy dragon from a big popular thing, but there's no real chemistry there, and I kind of do get that. So I am very curious what the next collab will be. I imagine we might have to wait a while for it, unless a Master Rank expansion gives us another, but even so. Then we went on to talk about the seasonal events, i.e. the various festivals. And for the spooky dream spell, they wanted to kind of meld spooky and elegant, which is, I think, really successful in how it was implemented. The rose theme and this kind of like eerie but magically beautiful vibe throughout the hub. And obviously, the afternoon tea that is the festival feast gives it that certain elegance they were looking for. In any case, it's a really nice blend and makes it stand out from both World and Iceborne's spooky festival. And the thing is, it's not easy to do an entire festival based around a season and have it completely different 3 times in a row. So yeah, fair enough. But the most specific thing they brought up here, which is a lot of fun, is the pumpkin head gesture, which we all know by this point has a very rare chance to be a tomato instead. Well, did you know, straight from the devs, if you actually go to Tashin in Sild Village, you have a much higher chance of getting this rare version of the gesture, and he'll actually have a unique reaction to it. Which is just amazing, right? That's a joy. Like, you didn't need to do that. Not a single person, not one soul on this planet Earth would have been, oh, it's a shame Tashin doesn't react to his tribe's food appearing on the player's head. Like, no one would think that, but the devs did, and they took the time to put something in for it, which is just wonderful. I really, really like that, and fair play. You know, Wilds has definitely had issues, of course, performance chief amongst them, but one thing that can never be doubted is how much the Monster Hunter devs love Monster Hunter. They really like some silliness and self-depreciating fun in the game, and Monster Hunter has always been good at having that while still being, you know, a serious Monster Hunter. Then we get to some more of the bigger guns. And the first one is your 9-star monsters and just generally the upgraded difficulty we've been getting. We know all about the 9-5s, right? But we're also now getting the 9-star Blangonga, the 9-star Guardian Fulgur Anjanath, the 9-star Ajarakan that's on the way. They're event quests, they rotate, but they're fun ways to beef up otherwise sort of mid-tier monsters and give them a more meaningful fight with rewards. That's really good. More variety is always nice. However, they've mentioned specifically rathalos, and that's that variant monster, as rathalos is getting a 9-star, so that's a confirmation there, but it's not just a 9-star like we know, or at least that's what I was about to go on to say before I've had to kind of change this whole bit. Essentially, we may have had a bit of a translation error, which is totally understandable. It's Japanese into French and then into English. There's a lot of different nuances and subtleties in those languages, and this may happen. Initially, we thought then that the rathalos would change behavior based on the season of the map, so, you know, your inclemency, your fallow, etc. But as it turns out, that doesn't seem to be the case. What, however, is unique to this rathalos, outside of, you know, the usual 9-star bump, is it's still supposedly, as I understand it, going to just exist as a spawn on the maps rathalos can spawn on, as opposed to just being a rotating event quest like the Blangonga, the Ajarakan, and the Fulgur Anjanath, and I guess anything else they do. On one hand, this is still really cool, but to know that we almost got like a variant-esque subspecies rathalos that had different attacks or behaviors or mechanics depending on the season, that's really fun. And honestly, seasonal monsters in general is something that I think is really filled with potential, and I'd love to see the Master Rank expansion actually explore. But yes, look out for this new rathalos. Then we get something a little bit more light-hearted again, Ryozo talking about Hammer, and he doesn't only play Hammer, but of course it is his favourite weapon, and design-wise he loves the Rathalos Hammer, leading on from the 9-star Rathalos because it's the head of a monster. So yeah, Ryozo and Con have an equal love for heads on sticks and Hammer, which is making me more and more suspicious by the day. Then the big one, Gogmazios, the final little set of questions here, and when it comes to Gogmazios Title Update 4, they really stress that it is not easy to do a monster of this caliber and of this reputation. First and foremost, he is a legend within the Monster Hunter community, and people are going to have high expectations, but also a good portion of us will have already hunted him, so making sure he's a meaningfully still new experience, which, let's be honest, him just being in Wilds will be that. He's going to look and does look gorgeous, is enough, but it's nice that they're really thinking about how everyone that has already faced him is still in for quite the ride. And he then is a lot to them. He's an imposing monster, he has got a lot of attack variety, and they said that he's going to have this oil coating, like we of course expect, that's Gogmazios' thing, but apparently it can change form, it can change appearance, it can change texture. So that's interesting. Again, translation, but in theory, his oil coat is going to actually be a big mechanical significance to this Gogmazios. Not just dripping and forming pools when he's calm, and then heated and steaming and burning off of him when he's angry, like his current incarnation. And they really double down on this by saying they're kind of giving him a little bit of a light Elatrion feel, in that you need two different elements to properly face him. They sort of set up up this with Omega having thunder for him and then fire for the Nursilla DPS check, so this seems like a continuation but very much more deliberate within the same monster. Depending on what state he's in, you'll need either fire or dragon element, and they said specifically they want to capitalize Gogmazios to work with the double weapon system. Of course, you know, I'll just be bringing a raw greatsword and a raw greatsword, but for most people this should be quite entertaining. In any case, they said they're still working on new gimmicks and possibilities to surprise players with, and he's essentially then going to have a, I presume, oil on and oil off, or specifically they used liquid mode and solid mode, and fire for the liquid and dragon for the solid is the implication. So it seems like Gogmazios is definitely going to be quite involved mechanically, and is really going to have distinct phases or states, and we're going to have to counter them specifically with elements as the first example. So that's really, really exciting. I mean, it was always the prediction that he's going to be quite the spectacle of a fight, because, well, it's him, but now we know that there really is going to be a lot going on. I think he's definitely going to have his own unique area, of course, he's massive, but I think the actual phases and how many might be above even our wildest dreams, and that's really, really cool. So yeah, confirmation that Gogmazios is going to be a lot more involved than he was. He's going to have different states, the oil's going to do a lot of shenanigans, we'll need multiple elements for him, and they're working in lots of surprises for even those of us that have hunted him. That's really, really cool stuff. And all of this from just a tiny, relatively little Q&A from the devs during the Festa. It's really, really awesome to see. But now then, I will leave you to digest this. Let me know what you think, and we'll be back soon to cover the entire event, because there's still lots of really cool things that happened, including, you know, another entire championship. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.